Wow. Welcome back. Episode 20, Around the Diamond Baseball Podcast. We have witnessed history. Kyle has been a part of history. Me, I chose to go to sleep instead. We're talking about Domingo Armand's perfect game, the 24th in the history of Major League Baseball. First one in 11 years. After having three in 2012. Seems a little bit fishy, but it's back. We got a couple more topics we want to talk about, but that's going to be the main headliner for today. Kyle, I know you're doing fantastic. Go ahead. Let's hear it. Leave it all out there. How are you feeling?
Oh man. I'm feeling good to say the least. First off, my Blackhawks had the number one pick in the draft. Hopefully things are turning around. But then of course to end my day, I got to watch Domingo Herman throw the 24th perfect game, MLB history, fourth in Yankees history. Wow, yeah, I was shocked. And honestly, I really don't think it is set in yet. Just because I haven't watched a perfect game, you know, in over 10 years, and I was only 12 at the time. So for me it's a very like surreal experience just because of it's not something you see every day, and especially from your favorite team. But yeah, so I was watching this game, and fifth and sixth inning rolls around, and I'm watching it, and it's coming up at this point. I'm scrolling on the MLB app, and it says perfect game next to it. I thought to myself, like, I didn't think anything of it because last year Domingo Herman took a no-hitter into the eighth inning against the Red Sox, and then he got pulled. But no, so I didn't expect much to happen. And then towards the end, ninth inning starts, and Domingo's coming back out, and I'm like, wait a minute, is this really still going on, right? And I could have sworn, for some reason, I could have sworn that the A's had a base runner last night. So obviously, I didn't think that he took it in the ninth inning. I'm watching it, and then when it happened, I was just like yeah, I don't know. It's just it's so surreal to me, and it's still like kind of setting in. And Domingo Herman's not really the first pitcher that you think of on the Yankees to go that deep into a game and pitch a perfect game. But yeah, no, I'm extremely excited, and I've been very, very lucky as a Yankee fan the last few years. They've really been hitting those history books a little bit more. I got to witness Corey Kluber's no hitter. I watched that, and then of course last night. But yeah, no. So I'm stoked. I'm very happy for Domingo Herman. Very happy for the Yankees. It's still weird that Domingo was the one who did it. It's like I said, it's all still setting in to me, and it's crazy to think about. But yeah. So that was kind of my experience with it. Now I'm kind of interested to see how you woke up this morning.
Yeah, so I'll tell my little side of the story of it. I was preparing our player of the game post that we do every day. And it was like 11 o'clock, and I was like, all right, there's not really any games over yet. I've pretty much done all the games that are done, and then there's a couple of the West Coast games. They're not over yet, so I can't, get the finals out there. And I was looking at the scores quick, and I saw the little blue notch with the white perfect game there next to A's and Yankees. And I was like, boy, oh boy, okay, perfect game. I'm not lying. I went and clicked on the box score, and I was like, Domingo Armand, okay. So I was like, well, he's definitely cooking with some spider tack right now. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't think that. But I was like, yeah, no, I'm too tired. I do not plan on staying up for this. It's gonna get broken up by like a single in the eighth inning. I'm gonna be like, why didn't I just go to bed? So I was like, nah, I'm just gonna go to bed. Lo and behold, I wake up this morning probably with like 5 texts in our group chat, celebrating Domingo Armand's perfect game. I get, 3 or 4 ESPN notifications because they have to repeat everything like 4 times. I know I probably have it set to receive like the max limit of Major League Baseball notifications anyway. Throw in like 2 Bleacher Report, and then Fox News decided to get in on the fun too. And because occasionally they dabble in the sports world, so I got that as well. I was like, All right. Well, I guess I should have stayed up a little bit and watched the game, but it's crazy. Domingo Armand into the history books as another guy who's thrown a no or a perfect game. And I got two things that I was thinking about today. Well, three. The first two are sort of like this would be like nightmare scenario. Like what if Esteri Ruiz, very fast guy, pulls out to tries to bunt to end it as the last hitter in the game. Man, that would have been brutal. He would have been killed on the internet. I can tell you that right now, including myself probably because I am not a fan of bunting to break up a no hitter or perfect game. So respect to Asteria Ruiz for not doing that. Second thing, after Josh Donaldson's gaff, like last week, fielding gaff, the last
Hmm.
play of the game, hit down the line to third baseman Josh Donaldson. I was like, well, what if he would have screwed that up? Bobbled it in his hand like he did last week, messes up the perfect game. I think Domingo Armand probably would have went over there and choked him out at that point, but it didn't happen. He pulled through. Now on the more serious side, does it take away a little bit from it that it's against the A's, who are being a historically bad team this season? It might go down in the history books as one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball history. I don't want to be the guy to say it takes away from it because it is Major League talent at the end of the day. And the A's, they have some legit players, but it's not like you caught the Red Sox on a bad night. You didn't catch, the Cubs on an off night. It was legitimately the worst team in the league.
Yeah, so obviously that's been a very big topic on social media that it was against the Athletics. And I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword because I mean, obviously for me, it's not just because it's the Yankees, right? For me, it's because like you said, it's still major league talent. These players are good enough to be in Major League Baseball. They are the A's at the end of the day. Yes, I understand that, but like I said, I mean these are professional hitters. So these guys have made some sort of impact to get them to where they are. And this is Domingo Herman. I mean, he has struggled this year. For him to come out here, especially after, all the BS and everything else, he was already suspended 10 games this year for the so-called sticky stuff, whatever it was, rosin, whatever. But for me, I don't think it takes away because these guys are still major league hitters, and I mean, maybe I'm, a little bit more defending of this just because it's my Yankees. But like I said, at the end of the day, it's still major league talent. These guys are still out there to prove that they can hit. And there's a guy in there, Brent Rooker. He's having himself a hell of a year. It's Tony Kemp. He's been in the league for years. So for him, he's a proven major league hitter, just like the rest of these guys. So for me, I don't think it takes away. Like I said, it could be throwing in some Yankee bias here, but no. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's a perfect game, and that's what it's going to go down as in the history books. If it was a no hitter, I don't know. Maybe I'd be thinking a little bit different. But it's a perfect game. It's hard to do no matter who you're playing.
Yeah, definitely. It's and part of that's not even like a walk. Sure, it can be partially in the batter's control, but like, hey, if a pitcher throws four wild pitches in a row and you're at the major league level, a guy's not going to swing at one 3 feet into the opposite batter's box. So part of it is on the pitcher. At the end of the day, like it doesn't matter who he's facing; he has to be elite that day, no matter if he's facing the best team in the league or, in this case, the worst team in the league. Now, I'll say in my mind, it's a little bit like, all right, you did it against the A's, but then, you look back and it's only the 24th in Major League history. So it's like, well, how many times? It's not like everybody goes out and beats the A's 100-0 this year. Like the Yankees just lost to them the day before. So
Yeah.
it's not that they are sure they're historically bad, but they're not, you know, that awful that everybody loses to them. Everybody does this to them. Everybody comes close to doing this to them. Like that's not the case. If that was the case, it would be a little watered down in my opinion. But at the end of the day, this happens very rarely across Major League Baseball. And okay, the best pitching team in the league. Who you want to say the Astros might be right now. They haven't thrown a perfect game against the A's this year. They haven't no hit the A's this year. So at the end of the day, listen, it's a perfect game. I'm gonna respect it for what it is.
Exactly. And that's the way I look at it too. It's and another thing too, this isn't Garrett Cole throwing a perfect game against the A's. Garrett Cole can very easily go out there, shove against the A's. I mean, you look at it exactly how you mentioned it. The A's play everybody. You're not seeing every single top pitcher going 6, 7, 8 innings with a perfect game against the A's. The A's are historically bad, but they're still getting hits. They're still doing what they're trying to do at least. But yeah, so like I said, I'm kind of in that same boat where you know, it's a perfect game no matter how you look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And we don't want to take any shine away from it, but we are time constrained here, so we won't let Kyle talk about it for the full, half hour, however long we go today. But we're going to move on with a little bit of a question then. We were talking about the worst team in the league. We're moving on to the two best teams in the league. And just proposing a little bit of a hypothetical, a bet. Who would you take here? Is it more of a lock to take either the Braves and the Rays, not to face off necessarily in the World Series, but for one of them to represent their league in the World Series, or to take the rest of the teams in Major League Baseball? I would love to know what you think, Kyle.
So I had mentioned this to you before we started recording here. For me, my kind of like mid-season, I guess you can say, updated list, because I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't even want to bring up what my preseason prediction was for the World Series because that is not panning out at all. So I'm going to move on with my updated prediction, and I am predicting the Rays and Braves to meet in the World Series. So to answer your question, I'm taking the Rays or the Braves. One of them are going to represent either the AL or the NL, in my opinion. For me, it's very hard to pick the one that I like better than the other. And I'm not taking anything away from the Braves because they're clicking on all cylinders right now. They really are. But when you look at the Rays side of things, right, is there you have Texas. Houston is still floating around in there. You have my Yankees if they decide to actually, show up. But is there any true competition in the American League going up against the Rays? That's where I'm kind of hung up because I don't know if there really is. The Rays are steamrolling everybody right now. So are the Braves. But there's a chance that the Braves can meet a very hot team in the NL. And I feel like the NL is a little bit more impressive this season than what the American League is. So it's hard to say which one. Now, like team-wise, I like the Braves better. But if I had to pick one to life or death, you got to pick one that you think is going to have a better chance to make the World Series, I'm taking the Rays. And it's just because of the competition that's in each league. And I feel like the Braves have it's not going to be easy to get there, but I feel like if you want to say easy, if that's the word you want to use, then I feel like they have an easier path to the World Series than what the Braves do.
Yeah, sure, that's a good point. I think at the end of the day, I'm gonna take, the Rays and the Braves over the field at this point because, like you said, they're both steamrolling everybody, just rolling to victories every night. It seems like Braves are 100% clicking on all cylinders. Rays are the exact same way. Now, if I had to lean one way, I would lean the other way. I would go with the Braves personally. To me, you're looking at. I'm going to bring up a different side of it. You said there's not a lot of teams in each division, and this sort of plays in the Rays' favor, I'll say. But the Braves, for their favor, they have been there and done that. Not that the Rays haven't. They've been to the postseason a couple times, and recently, and made it to the World Series in 2020. not all those guys because the Rays sort of roll through guys a lot. Sure, they have their core pieces. Randy was in the World Series. I don't think Wander was in the World Series though. I think
I
that would
don't
have
think
been
he was
before
up yet.
his. Yeah, I think that was before his debut. And then like their pitching staff, like I said, they roll through guys a lot. A lot of them weren't in the World Series on that team. The Braves core, they were just there last year, or not last year, 2 years ago. I'm sorry, my Phillies were there last year. Um, so pretty much all of those guys have been there and done that. And even the guys who necessarily haven't, Matt Olson, he's a seasoned veteran. He's not going to be afraid of the moment, anything like that. That's not something that worries me. Now, on the flip side, to support your Rays argument a little bit, when you look at the teams that could propose a challenge to each team, like in the American League, you said the Rangers and you said you didn't say the Orioles, but I'll say the Orioles um,
Then
as teams
yeah,
that are possible to upset them. Well, look at where those teams were last year and 2 years ago. Not in a good spot. They're dealing with all new squads here who have not been there and done that. Now, I'm not saying that either of those two teams don't have the caliber of guys to make it there, but it's a little bit different when it's your first time. It can be hard to make it the whole way to the World Series in your first, season putting together a good season. When you look at the National League side, we'll start with the Dodgers, they've been the perennial, best team in the National League along with the Braves for the past few seasons now. Then you look in the East and you got the Phillies right behind them. The Marlins, sure, they're also in the same boat as the Rays and the Orioles and the Rangers. They haven't been there. The Marlins haven't. But the Phillies just knocked out the Braves last year. The Brewers, if they can put it together in the NL Central and come away with that division, they've been there the past 5 seasons. They've been the team in the NL Central. So there's teams that are there. The Giants, even if they can make a postseason run, wouldn't be their first time being good. They were just amazing 2 years ago. So there's a lot of teams in the National League that have been there and done that. The Diamondbacks, they have not yet. So would I be a little bit hesitant about picking the Diamondbacks in a playoff game? I might be a little bit because there's other teams that have been there and done that a little bit more than them at this point. But no, I'm gonna say I like the Braves a little bit more. Either way, at the end of the day, but I think it's like a good. It's pretty even. Like there's a lot of great teams beside those two, but
mhm.
I feel pretty confident in taking the Braves or the Rays.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I mean, we kind of just reiterated everything. I mean, they're basically the two best teams in baseball, clicking on all cylinders. The Rays are just I still don't understand how they do it. And it pisses me off, especially because I'm a Yankees fan, that this team can throw out whoever the hell they want. They have a bottom five to 10 payroll in all of baseball, and they're winning games left and right. They have over 50 wins this year. They're clicking. I mean, they got guys producing who you don't ever expect to produce. And in my opinion, they have the most underrated baseball player in baseball. That's Yandy Diaz. He's a monster, and I don't see him getting talked about enough. But as you said too, the Braves have a very, very, very smart front office, and what they have done is nothing short of amazing. Um, yeah, I think these two teams are powerhouses, and I'd be willing to bet that one of these two teams, if not both of them, are going to meet in the Fall Classic.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty safe bet at this point. I believe they have the two best records in baseball right now. So, it seems like it be a safe lock at this point, but you never know. Braves are one of the top teams in baseball last year, and my Phillies just squeaked into the playoffs, and we knocked them out. So anything can happen in the playoffs. We all know that. Melo and his Dodgers, they know that too. We don't
Yeah.
want to ask him about that though. But we'll switch gears here a little bit. Steve Cohen had a press conference just yesterday about not really the future of the Mets. And if you listen to what he said, it's sort of broad, it wasn't as good as I was hoping it would be. I was hoping he'd come out and say, we are not going to sell at the trade deadline, blah, blah, blah. But he didn't say that. Basically, he said he's not going to fire Buck Showalter and Billy Epler. That was pretty much the only thing he said, really,
Mhm.
other than he said he's going to have all his guys across, management there prepared for whatever happens at the trade deadline, whether it is buying, whether it is selling, whatever. But in the case they were selling, Max Scherzer has already said it'd be a potential option for him to waive his trade deadline or his trade what do you call it?
There's no trade clause.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry. His anti-trade clause, no trade clause. So we're going to try and cook up a couple teams here that we think could be interested. I don't think we'll do a full deep dive because it's not even, for sure known if he's going to be traded or anything. But if he was, we got a couple teams. Kyle, you want to give me like two of them?
Yeah. So this was this was kind of hard, to be honest with you. To kind of like pick out a few teams just because there's teams in here who are making runs who I didn't expect to make runs, and a couple of them off right here. I'm gonna go with Baltimore. I would love Baltimore. No, I'm not as a Yankee fan, but as a baseball fan, I would love Baltimore to add some few more pieces. They have an amazing young core. They're set up perfectly for the future. If they can get some vets in there, man, I'm that's scary. That is scary to think about, and that's kind of why I don't want them to do it. But I got Baltimore, and this is also kind of hard because it's another young team. I'm gonna go the Diamondbacks. Um, the Diamondbacks have Zach Gallen already. You had you had Scherzer next to him. I mean that 1-2 combo. I mean it's kind of what you need. Pitching wins championships, and they already have the young lineup. They're proving that they can win and compete in the NL West. Why not add a guy like Scherzer onto this team? And just because I want to do it, and I'm buying into this team so damn much, and I love them, the Cincinnati Reds. I mean,
Hmm.
I I doubt it's going to happen, and that's why I didn't put them in my two teams. But I just want it to happen. That's kind of like one of those things where I want it to happen. I want this team to just keep going. I think my favorite rebuild out of every one of them is the Cincinnati Reds, and I don't know why. Right? I'm buying into this club, and I want them to add, and I love what they're doing in Cincinnati.
Those are some great teams. I love that you threw the Reds in there. I thought about including them, but I was like, I don't know. NL to NL, sometimes it can be a little tricky. And I know we said the D backs, which is, NL to NL too. But and the fact that they sort of weren't expecting to be this far, so maybe they wouldn't want to trade away some of their younger pieces yet for old Max Scherzer when they're not sure they can even make a run in the
Exactly.
playoffs this year. But anyway,
Yeah.
I'll give a couple teams now. One of the first teams that came to mind for me, the Los Angeles Anaheim Angels. It just seems sort of like the Angels thing to do. Now, this would be more like the Angels thing to do would be paying Max Scherzer probably like 20 million to come in after this season and he signs with LA. But they've shown already they're willing to make some trades. They're willing to try and put things together to build around Shohei to try and convince him to stay in LA. You guys talked about that last week on the pod, with them bringing in Eddie Escobar and Mike Moustakas. So they've shown that they're willing to do this. What's been the story of the Angels for the past 5 seasons and basically all of Mike Trout's career? Where is the starting pitching? They just don't have the guys there. And they tried to answer that by bringing in Tyler Anderson this offseason. I honestly do not know what he's been up to, like in terms of if he's been injured or if he's been. I know he hasn't
I'm a,
been decent. I don't think he's been. I know he hasn't been great, so I don't know. Maybe he's been all right, serviceable, not that great. They have some other guys. They got Reed Detmers and Pablo Sandoval. Definitely adequate options. Detmers just threw a no hitter last season, if you guys remember that. So he's proven that he's been great this season as well. But I think that they would always love to add another pitcher in there. I think that's a fair team to add. And then another team, which I know Kyle would love if Max Scherzer went to the Astros and just absolutely turned it on
Hmm.
just to smack the Yankees in the mouth if they made it to the playoffs. I think that'd
Yeah.
be hilarious, but personally, that's just my opinion. And I got to be careful talking about the Astros because they smacked my Phillies in the mouth last year in the World Series. So I got to be careful what I'm saying here. But they've had a lot of starting pitching injuries this season. I mean, they lost Justin Verlander to become Max Scherzer's teammate in the offseason. Now, maybe that was a good thing because Scherzer or Verlander has not looked fantastic. He's looked a little bit better as of recently, but he started off the season on the IL and then eventually started some games and didn't look fantastic. But like I said, suffering some injuries there, with Lance McCullers Jr. being out for the season. Toss Max Scherzer in that rotation, pair him with Framber Valdez. Oh my goodness, that is a lethal duo if Max Scherzer can get back to his form a little bit. And that would be one of the nastiest 1-2 combos. Plus, they already got Christian Javier, who I'm still salty that he basically threw a full game no hitter. I think they had to bring in relief pitchers. But yeah, for the World Series last year, I'm still salty about that. But that would probably be the best 1-2-3 combo, healthy combo because the Dodgers with their, Bueller, Kershaw, Urias would have a conversation if they were all healthy right now. But they aren't. So I think that could be the Astros. If they brought him in, that would be deadly. And it would just be another piece for them to ratchet it up for the postseason.
Yeah, that's I wanted to keep the Astros out of this. I really did. But of course they had to come up and no, I definitely agree with you. As a baseball fan, that's the thing to do, especially if you're the Astros. You're losing pitching left and right and you're I mean, and you got some young guys in there. Hunter Brown is amazing, dude.
Hunter
I've
Brown, I didn't
I
even mention him.
these guys are, having I don't even want to think about Scherzer turning it off and turning it on in the playoffs for the Astros. But no, I mean it does make sense. But if I had to give a logical sense here, if he is going to get traded, this has Angels written all over it. It really does, and that would be the logical thing. But I mean, personally, just go to Cincinnati. That's what I'd love to see.
I would love to see it too. I'm a little bit hesitant that it happens, but I would love to see it. As long as the Mets aren't getting anything great back in return, that's selfish as a Phillies fan. For all these trades, pretty much, I don't want them getting anything fantastic back in return. I
Yeah,
think in Scherzer has two more, like he has the rest of this year and another year on his contract, maybe. I think so.
I believe that is the case. Yes.
Yeah, I think he signed a 3-year deal or something like that because him and Verlander get off the books at the same time, I believe was their thinking
Hmm.
there. So either way, we'll see what happens. Steve Cohen doesn't even know what's happening at this point, I don't think. But he did say Buck is safe. So Mets fans need to pipe down about that because you were calling for Buck's job the last 2 weeks or so. And maybe rightfully so. The Mets have been very terrible. But now we're going to talk a little bit more fun thing. So now we are going to give who we would want to see in the home run derby this year. Just a reminder how it works. There's 8 participants total, with 3 of them already being decided pretty much. Mookie Betts said he was going to if he's an all-star, and guess what? He just got announced as an outfield starter. So Mookie Betts, welcome to the home run derby. J-Rod, he has committed already, rightfully so. He's playing in Seattle. Makes sense. And then your great friend, Vladdy Jr. from up north, has committed as well to playing in the home run derby. So that leaves 5 for each of us to fill out. We're just going to go through them all. Kyle, let's hear your 5.
All right. So this was obviously a very, very hard decision here, but I'm going with obviously J Rod, Betts, and Vlad. And then my 5 are Mike Trout, Yandy Diaz, Bryce Harper, Pete Alonso, and Aaron Judge.
There you go. That
With
is
some honorable there's 3 that I really didn't want to leave off, but I had to. Adolis Garcia, Elliot De La Cruz, and Randy Rosarena.
I like that. You went with a fully star-studded option there.
Yeah.
Harper, I would kind of like to see him do it again. Win it as a Philly would be nice, but I don't think he would do it, especially with the rehab right now, which hitting doesn't seem to be an issue, but I don't think he would, especially since he didn't make the starting roster and he has not been fantastic this season. He's been all right. But yeah, I like those picks, especially Yandy Diaz. I didn't think of that, but he is jacked. He would be smoking home runs.
I'm a very big Yandy Diaz guy.
I like that. And Randy, I like that too. All
Yeah.
right. So my five here, I did not go with the stars for the most part. So here's the five that I would like to add to the current roster. Jorge Soler,
Oof.
Rafi Devers. I know you would hate to see that, but whatever. Um, Here's my biggest star, Fernando Tatis Jr. I'd love to see him do it again. I think that would be great for baseball as a whole. But yeah, I'd love to see it. Bit of a different pick here. Josh Young, third baseman for the Rangers. He showed he's been a slugger this season. I'd like to see him do it. I think it'd be fun. And then last but not least, got to go with my guy because he did not try hard last year. He let Albert Pujols win. Kyle Schwarber needs redemption. You cannot convince me that that was Kyle Schwarber actually trying as hard as he could. That's not the Kyle Schwarber who smokes 450 feet bombs just like he's flicking a toothpick. Okay, that was not Kyle Schwarber last year. I don't believe that for 1 second. So he needs a little redemption and not feel like he has to let Albert Pujols win since it's his last season in Major League Baseball. What do you think about my five, Kyle?
Yeah, obviously it's a very good list, but I think my favorite on that list is Jorge Soler. I'm so mad at myself. I didn't even think of him. But I mean, he's a big slugger, and I think just I don't it's for Miami too. It's a smaller market team. Having a guy like that in the home run derby, I think that's cool. Soler's just that guy. That's cool. I really like that pick.
He crushes balls, and when he is on, he is one of my favorite players to watch hit. Just because, like I just said, he just smokes home runs. So I think him in the home run derby would be awesome. I'll add one more thing here about the home run derby. I was listening to McAfee show the other day, and with it not being football or basketball season, they are forced to talk about baseball some. So they had Jeff Passan on the show, and he was saying a rule change that he would like to see in the MLB home run derby is you get a timeout and right before the final 30 seconds, you switch to an aluminum bat. The players are allowed to use an aluminum bat for the last 30 seconds because we all see how the College World Series goes, where those guys who are basically MLB caliber hitters right now are absolutely cranking tanks with these metal bats. So I am a huge proponent of this. Let's see it. It doesn't matter anyway. Everybody gets to use a metal bat. Nobody has an unfair advantage. It's more entertaining. Who doesn't want to see, I don't want to see Pete Alonso, but who doesn't want to see J-Rod crush a massive home run? Who cares if it's a metal bat?
Yeah, wow. That's actually I don't know. Wow. That's You kind of caught me off guard with that. That's very interesting to say the least. I mean, that's I think I don't know. I feel like the All-Star game needs to have a little bit more. I'm almost positive the MLB used to have like a small little skills competition. I think they only trialed it for a little bit, but I
Mm,
feel like just adding more to All-Star weekend, I think that would be just why not? And like you said, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you're just competing for a trophy. So, I
yeah,
mean, yeah,
trophy. There's some prize money, but if everybody can do it, it doesn't matter. Everybody's getting the same playing field then.
yeah. So I mean, I'm on board with it. I think that'd be pretty cool. Why
Let's
not?
go, Rob Manfred. You heard it here. Second, I won't claim it was my idea. I'll give that to Jeff Passan. But Seems like a pretty great idea, in my opinion. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode. We had heard enough gloating about the perfect game, Kyle. But let's hear one more time. Let's hear it.
Yeah. Oh man, it's an amazing accomplishment. I'm glad I got to witness it, especially being a Yankee. It's yeah, like I said, it hasn't set in yet, so it's gonna be a little until I truly like settle down and he actually just threw a perfect game. So for me, it's very very exciting to see and watch, and I'm glad I got to witness it.
Yeah, I'm happy for you. Even as a Phillies fan, I don't really care. It could have been the Braves or the Mets, and I would still be happy that a perfect game was thrown because it's still exciting to watch. But my Phillies, we are on a roll right now. We are kicking the Cubs in the butt. Absolutely smoking them left and right. Nick Castellanos is on a tear. Brandon Marsh, where you been? You made it back now. Let's go. The boys are rolling right now. I'm feeling it. Watch out, Mello. We are 2 games behind the Dodgers in for the wild card spot. So bet you wouldn't have thought that sentence would be coming out of your mouth at the beginning of the season. But guess what? It is. We're here. Episode 20 in the books. Thanks for watching, listening, and we will see you on Monday.
Later.